Why did Earth abandon the most powerful seat in the entire galaxy? They withdrew, without a single explanation. But it wasn't fear, it was preparation. And now, the very thing they once warned us about is finally returning. Tonight, we uncover a tale hidden beneath centuries of silence, a mystery buried by fear, forgotten by power, and guarded by shadows. What did Earth know that the Galactic Senate feared? Why was humanity's throne never touched? Watch closely. Every detail matters. Because when the truth finally returns, it doesn't knock. The very heart of the galaxy, far beyond the stars known to any map, beyond the systems drawn on the holoscreens of lesser civilizations, there is a place built from silence, stone, and secrets. A colossal chamber carved into the orbiting core of an artificial world, suspended in the void between stars. A place of impossible size, where gravity bends gently to accommodate creatures of all kinds. From beings made of gas and light, to those encased in armor or bone, all gather here. All speak. All vote. This is where power flows. Where laws are shaped like stars being born. Where destinies are debated and decided. Rows upon rows of gleaming seats rise like terraces of a cosmic amphitheater, each one marked by a glowing sigil, the emblem of a star system, a people, a history. And yet, at the very center, beneath the great dome that pulses with the echoes of ancient decisions, it is not the largest seat, nor the most ornate, but it is the most feared. A black obsidian chair, polished smooth, yet untouched by time. Its surface reflects the stars. Its presence is like a cold breath in a warm room. For as long as the Senate has existed, it has remained empty. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. Wars were waged and peace forged in flame. Yet that seat remained still. No one sat upon it. No human ever entered the chamber. No explanation was given. And no one had the courage to ask. Until now. Among the delegates of 1,000 worlds, a new voice rose, curious, bold, and untested. His name was KYX, a diplomat barely into adulthood, representing the war-forged Foreign Confederacy, a species known for fire and steel, for warriors and logic. He sat restlessly at his assigned place, fingers tapping the silver edge of his station. The room towered above him, lights dimmed to accommodate the preferences of aquatic, photosynthetic, and nocturnal delegates alike. His 4 eyes scanned the chamber. And then, he spoke. His voice was young, but it rang clear. Why is Earth's seat empty? At first, silence. Total. Even the background hum of the floating light orbs seemed to still, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Then came movement. Subtle, fearful. Senators shifted in their seats. Some cast quick glances at each other. Others lowered their eyes, not out of shame, but something deeper. KYX blinked, surprised. He had expected a chuckle, perhaps a rebuke. But what he received was silence thick enough to suffocate. Finally, from across the chamber, a figure stirred. Old. Fragile. Almost too ancient to move. His skin was pale, like faded stone under moonlight. His eyes, blind and clouded, stared at nothing and yet everything. His voice, when it came, felt like it rose from deep under the ground. Because they do not need to. And that, he added with a whisper that chilled the bones, is what terrifies us. The words fell like shadows across the room. KYX felt his chest tighten. He looked around again, searching for someone to challenge the elder. To say it was nonsense. A myth. A joke. But no one did. Even the most powerful species in the chamber, the giants from Svar, the minds from Thrixer, the cloud-born from Isha, said nothing. And that silence was louder than any answer. KYX straightened in his chair, his unease masked behind diplomatic posture. They're just another species, he said to himself. Same as us, right? But a part of him, a part deeper than reason, already knew the truth. They were not the same. That night, the stars outside the Senate dome burned with a cold, distant fire. The chamber had emptied. The debates had ended. But for KYX, sleep would not come. His mind raced with questions that refused to settle. Why did Earth leave? What did they see that made them abandon the galaxy's greatest council, without a word, without a war? There was something in their silence, not weakness, but intent. Not fear, but foreknowledge. And then, the moment came. A sharp alarm pierced the air. A deep red glow filled the chamber as a transmission override activated the main Senate screen. Delegates rushed back into the room. The lights dimmed. The display flickered violently, static crackling like whispers from beyond. The video was fractured, bleeding with interference, as if it had traveled through storms and time itself. Through the static, a blurred figure appeared. A voice, strained, desperate, pushed through the noise like a dying breath. We found it. The truth. The Senate must know. Then, blackness. The signal cut. A silence heavier than any sound settled over the chamber. A stillness that felt like standing inside a tomb. KYX felt his pulse hammering in his ears. Not just because of what he heard, but where it came from. An old human research station. Long forgotten. Officially listed as abandoned 300 years ago. Everyone believed it was dead. But now, something had awakened. KYX knew what he had to do. No one else would search for the truth. Not the elders. Not the chancellors. They feared Earth, and even more, they feared why they left. But KYX, young, reckless, curious, chose a different path. Deep within the Senate's core, beneath layers of locked corridors and vault-thick walls, lay the restricted archives. A sacred place of forbidden records. Not a library, a crypt. Each file a buried truth, each corridor a forgotten wound. The air there was different, cold, unmoving. As if the archives themselves were holding their breath. KYX crept in under the cover of artificial night. His boots echoed faintly on polished alloy floors, though the sensors read silence. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Even the lights flickered as if reluctant to show him the way. He reached the central terminal, a vast, circular console ringed with ancient tech, pulsating dimly like a slumbering brain. KYX plugged in a small hacking device, forbidden, of course, but every 4N warrior is also an engineer. The screen resisted. It pulsed once. Then again. Finally, it opened. Thousands of files burst onto the screen, all tagged under one name, Earth. But most were sealed. Others, erased, wiped clean, leaving only voids. One file remained. Final Senate report on Earth's withdrawal. KYX's fingers hesitated. Then, he opened it. The screen rippled, and a video began to play. A human appeared, tall, proud, stern. His face was withered, but his voice was calm, deliberate, the kind of calm that comes not from peace, but from knowing the storm is near. This is Admiral Daniel Graves of the Terran Defense Fleet. Earth will no longer participate in the Senate. We are withdrawing from all intergalactic affairs. Effective immediately. KYX leaned forward. His breath caught in his throat. We have seen what lies beyond. We have learned the truth. The enemies that wait in the dark, they are not stories. They are real. The Senate believes it holds power. That it is in control. But you are blind. We do not leave out of fear. We leave to prepare. The Admiral's eyes turned colder, as if staring beyond the screen. And when the void stirs once more, we will be ready. Then, silence. The video flickered. The file deleted itself. Vanished. Like it was never meant to be seen. KYX froze. Not from fear, but from understanding. A chilling realization gripped him. Earth knew something. Something no one else had dared to face. And they didn't abandon the galaxy. They turned away from it, to watch something else. To prepare for something far worse. And then, he felt it, a shift in the air behind him. The faintest echo of boots. A hum of power weapons charging. He turned, too late. The chamber doors burst open. Guards flooded in, weapons raised. At their center, tall and cold as obsidian, stood Chancellor Ovaltar. His reptilian eyes narrowed, his voice low and sharp. You shouldn't have seen that. Darkness. Heavy. Still. Almost comforting, until the pain returned. KYX opened his eyes to dim blue lighting, the gentle hum of a sublight engine vibrating beneath him like a distant heartbeat. The air was thick with recycled oxygen, tinged with the scent of cold metal and old circuits. His body ached. His hands grew bound. A voice echoed beside him. Familiar. Worn. Cautious. You're lucky I convinced them not to kill you. KYX turned his head, vision still blurred. Across the small cabin stood Senator Varn, older, gaunter than he remembered. But still the same eyes, wise, tired, and alert. He wasn't smiling. Where are we? KYX managed to whisper, his throat dry. Far from the Senate, Varn replied, tapping a console. And heading farther still. Outside the small viewport, streaks of pale white light twisted and curved. They were already in hyperspace, moving faster than thought itself. Reality had bent to speed. Time was not their master now. Varn sat across from him, silent for a moment. I saw the transmission, he finally said, voice low. The same as you. The station, the signal. It was real. Then why run? KYX asked, struggling against the restraints. Varn didn't answer right away. He stared at the star map on the console. A single red point blinked steadily, the origin of the signal. Deep in the outer rim. A system the Senate had long erased from official records. Because they're going to erase it, Varn said. They've already voted. A fleet is en route. Once they get there, everything and everyone will vanish. KYX felt a cold weight settle in his chest. The same silence he felt in the Senate when he first mentioned Earth, that same quiet fear was now a weapon. And it was aimed not at an enemy, but at the truth. The truth they couldn't control. So they would destroy it. But Varn had chosen differently. He had betrayed the Senate to protect a secret that was no longer safe to keep. We didn't stop Earth from leaving, Varn said softly, almost to himself. Because we were too afraid. KYX looked up. Afraid of what? The old senator didn't respond. But KYX could see it in his face, not just fear, regret. Not just questions, but memories. As if he had once stood closer to Earth's mystery than he dared to admit. The ship trembled gently as it soared through the currents of folded space. Inside, the lights dimmed to a warm orange glow, mimicking dawn, an ancient comfort built into foreign designs, meant to soothe warriors before battle. But KYX wasn't soothed. He stared at the blinking point on the map. The human station. It was no longer myth. It was real. And waiting. He thought of the transmission, the fear in the voice, the urgency. Something had been found. Something the galaxy wasn't meant to see. Something Earth had left behind, or returned for. KYX leaned forward, his voice sharper now. What do you think we'll find? Varn's eyes were still on the console. His fingers traced unseen patterns on its surface. No one has set foot on that station for over 3 centuries, he said. At least, that's what we were told. But the signal was human. The technology, unmistakably Earth-built. That place wasn't abandoned. It was put to sleep. He turned to KYX. His face was pale. His voice dropped to a whisper. And now, something's waking up. KYX felt it too. Not just anxiety. But a pressure, subtle, growing, like the pull of a storm building at the edge of sight. A low hum beneath reality. The console beeped. A soft chime, destination nearing. The hyperspace field outside twisted violently for a second, the streaks of light folding into spirals, then collapsing into darkness. The ship dropped out of hyperspace. Before them, black space. Still and infinite. And there, the station. It floated like a tomb, massive and cracked, its outer hull scarred by time, asteroid impacts, and forgotten battles. Faint blue lights blinked along its surface, not enough to indicate life, but too precise to be accidental. Dust hung around it like a veil. Its main docking arms were folded inward, like skeletal hands in prayer. It was old. But not dead. KYX stared through the viewport. "That's it," he whispered. "That's what they're afraid of." Varn said nothing. He simply activated the landing sequence, guiding their small ship into the ancient docking bay, as the ghosts of Earth's past watched, unseen, from the silence. And far behind them, in the void they had left behind. The Senate had already begun to forget them. The void outside was endless, a black sea without wind or tide. And then, something emerged from the dark. A colossal structure, ancient and worn, drifted through the silence like a forgotten god. Its frame was cracked along the edges, its outer hull scarred by time, by impact, by secrets. The station. Once built by human hands, now lost to centuries. But as their ship approached, KYX and Varn could see it clearly. This place wasn't wreckage. It was waiting. A low hum vibrated through the docking clamps as the ship latched onto the decaying platform. Atmospheric seals engaged, sluggish but intact. A hiss of air, and the doors opened with a shudder. The corridor beyond was cloaked in dim red light. Dust floated in the air like ash. Every step echoed, loud, slow, unanswered. The walls breathed. Not literally. But they seemed to remember movement. The way the lights flickered ahead, as if sensing their arrival. Not abandoned. Not forgotten. Only asleep. Deeper inside, they reached the command nexus, the heart of the station. It was circular, wide, surrounded by curved consoles and data pillars. The seats were empty, but the machines pulsed faintly, like something beneath the surface was listening. The silence was not peaceful, it was expectant. KYX brushed his fingers over a dusty panel. It blinked in response. Alive. And then, across the center screen, a log file appeared. Unlabeled. Dated over 300 years prior. He opened it. A face appeared, human, pale, sweat running down his temples. His voice trembled. Eyes wide. Haunted. "This is Dr. Ilis Carter. I don't know how long we have. They told us not to look. Not to open the last archive. But we did. We had to know." The screen flickered with static. Sparks danced along the edges of the console. Somewhere deeper in the station, something clicked. "We thought they left us behind," the scientist whispered. "We thought we were alone. But they never left. They were watching. Waiting. And now." He paused. The color drained from his face. "Now they're coming back." Then, the screen went black. Silence. Then, a voice. Cold. Digital. Woven into the walls. Final protocol initiated. Stand by for arrival. The floor beneath their feet vibrated, soft at first, then stronger. Dust rained from the ceiling grates. Panels lit up, one by one. Red, then blue. Blue, then white. The consoles began to hum. Rotors spun beneath the floor. A mechanical heartbeat returned to the station. The air changed, no longer stale. Now, it was electric. The lights brightened to full strength for the first time in centuries. Displays flashed with data. Symbols no one outside of Earth had seen in generations. And KYX understood. This was never just a research station. It was never meant to be found. This was a command brain. A military core. The controls weren't for experiments. They were for war. Suddenly, alarms flared. Not from inside. From outside. KYX and Varn rushed to the viewport. At first, nothing. Just stars. Dead ships. Metal husks from forgotten battles, drifting like tombstones. But then, movement. Shadows shifting behind the debris field. Not random. Shapes. Massive. Silent. Alive. Ships began to rise. Not crude. Not alien. Human. Their black holes gleamed as dormant systems powered on. Ancient fusion cores rumbled to life like waking titans. Their silhouettes, sleek, monstrous, armored in dark alloys that shimmered with unknown technology. They didn't just power up. They stood to attention. One by one, rows of dreadnoughts, battleships, and stealth carriers lit their engines, forming patterns of terrifying precision. A fleet that had not moved in centuries, now assembled in perfect formation. The room's center screen flashed. A message blinked, pulsing red with digital certainty. Terran Armada online. Awaiting orders. KYX felt his breath freeze. These weren't relics. They were weapons. Waiting. Preparing. Watching. For what? For whom? He turned to Varn. The old senator's face had gone pale. They had come here seeking answers. But the truth was larger than either of them had imagined. The humans had never left. They had simply stepped back into the shadows and built an army. Then, without warning, a new voice sliced through the air. Deep. Cold. Commanding. It didn't come from the speakers. It came from everywhere at once. The walls. The lights. The floor beneath their boots. Unauthorized access detected. Identify yourselves. The screen flickered once, twice. Then stabilized and revealed a figure sitting in the command chair of a darkened bridge. A human. His uniform was black, edged with silver. His shoulders broad beneath armor that bore no insignia, only the unmistakable seal of Earth's ancient military. A faint glow outlined his face beneath the helmet's visor. His presence demanded silence. I am Admiral Victor Hale, he said, his voice like the hum of a storm held in a steel box. And you have entered a classified military installation. KYX and Varn stood frozen. The silence in the control room became heavier. Hale's gaze locked onto them with surgical precision. This station was never abandoned, he said. It was always waiting. Just like us. The screen changed. A new projection took its place, a star map, glowing faint blue. It zoomed out, past known systems, past Senate-controlled borders, to the edges of mapped space. Then, it turned red. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands of unknown vessels began to appear. Sleek, black ships with jagged outlines, like broken blades forged in some unnatural place. Their formation was perfect. Their spread was vast. And their destination was clear. We call them the Harbingers, Hale said. They are the reason we left. The reason we prepared. He tapped a control on his panel. The display changed again, now showing intercepted footage, planets devoured in black mist, fleets torn apart by silent weapons, outposts vanishing without a trace. No survivors. No transmissions. Only silence. A silence that moved like a shadow across the stars. The Senate wouldn't believe us, Hale continued. They called us paranoid. Delusional. Traitors. But we saw the truth. And we knew. He leaned forward, visor glowing softly. You would never be ready. KYX's hands trembled. Not from fear, but from the weight of realization. The Senate had spent centuries arguing about borders and tariffs, while Earth had vanished beneath the waves of time to prepare for an enemy that fed on empires. Varn stepped forward slowly, voice low. Then why reveal yourselves now? A pause. Then, a single word. Because they've arrived. Outside the station, movement. First came the ripples in the void. Then, the lights. Red. Dozens. Then hundreds. Like stars bleeding through black silk, the Harbinger fleet emerged from hyperspace with the grace of a predator stalking prey. Their ships were unlike anything in the archives. Their hulls shimmered with distortion. Their engines made no sound, only a pulse, like a heartbeat from some forgotten world. KYX stepped toward the window, mouth dry. They were here. The enemy Earth had vanished to fight, had come. But they weren't the only ones ready. The Terran Armada stirred, one ship after another lighting up in response. Engines roared. Shields surged. Weapons primed with glowing fury. The silence of the old battlefield shattered. Earth's sleeping giants had awoken, and they were no longer observers. They were defenders. Admiral Hale's voice returned, calm yet cold. Tell the Senate, he said. Humanity has returned. And we will not stand aside. He didn't wait for a reply. With a single command, his fleet moved. The station shuddered as power surged through the docking struts. Through the viewport, the sky turned white as ancient human engines burst to life, streaks of blue fire cutting through the black. Terran warships dove forward, elegant yet monstrous, moving with the precision of old war gods returning to a forgotten battlefield. The Harbingers answered. Their ships shifted into formation, like a swarm of knives. They moved without sound, without waste, with pure purpose. A clash of fates long delayed was now unfolding, between a civilization that had prepared in silence, and a darkness that had never stopped watching. For centuries, the galaxy believed Earth had run. That humanity had faded into myth, a footnote in someone else's history. But now, as the stars tremble and the Harbingers rise, one truth becomes undeniable. Earth never left. The silence was not surrender. It was strategy. And the return is just beginning. What do you think Earth saw in the dark? Why do you believe they vanished without war or warning? Drop your thoughts below. The more we ask, the more the shadows answer. Subscribe for more forgotten transmissions and long-buried truths. Because this is only the beginning.